The first time I read through this chapter, I was obviously excited. I was eager to see how everything would kickstart into the monolithic conclusion, and undoubtedly it was the embodiment of anger. Pure hatred driven by history, driven by emotion, driven by the strive for freedom and to abolish the hatred that has shrouded Eldians for generations. This is the very heart and core of Eren Jaeger, and we finally get to see what that amounts to, what body represents him, what emotions come across when you see that titan built up of rage, ready to burst. The second time I read through the chapter and got past my eagerness to indulge on everything, I felt suffocated by emotion. Funny enough, it's something that didn't come across to me clearly when I read it the first time. Paying close attention to facial expressions, to the conflicting and contrasting emotions, to the tone being set right from the beginning, and how it carried itself and escalated all throughout the entirety of the chapter. It was overwhelming. Obviously in a good atmospheric type of way. Just looking back on it and going through it piece by piece, it's a beautiful thing to witness. Seeing how far not only Eren but everyone else has come throughout the story, throughout their journey, and how it's all building up and boiling to this extremely explosive point, where the consequences are beyond comprehensible, all in the name of freedom, all in the name of a future without such visceral hatred. There is a lot of things that I want to talk about, and if you haven't noticed, this video is trying to be a lot more organized and precise compared to my previous unscripted ones. It should feel like it has more direction and overall flow to it, hopefully. I plan to probably break this chapter up within the video so it's easier to navigate and talk about. Also, quick plug, if you haven't seen my previous video, I recently got the opportunity to work with Viz to promote Act Age Volume 1's official English release. So if you're interested in an emotionally powerful series that focuses on the mental health of method actors, I'd highly recommend you click the link in the description or pinned comment to go check it out and potentially pick up the first volume. Clarity, I'm not being paid to say this. I just wholeheartedly love Act Age and want to see it thrive. If you don't want to, that's perfectly fine. I appreciate you regardless. So with the opening out of the way, let's have a closer look at the incredible Attack on Titan chapter 130 and how it handles the start of Ragnarok. We open up to the chapter and are instantly met with despair, desperation, defeat, a flood of different emotions born from the reception of knowing that saving Liberio is impossible. On one side you have people like Annie, Gabby, Peck, and even Reiner drowning in this, knowing their homeland is about to be destroyed alongside any people or memories they love with it. Just these characters alone and their expression is sickly. You can see just how distraught and lost they truly are. If it weren't for the future of the whole world being in danger, you can easily imagine just how quick they would probably give up and disappear. This is expressed heavily through Annie, as she previously mentioned her foster father that she cared deeply for within Marley, pretty much the only thing that was driving her forward at this point. Considering she's rather fresh back into the narrative after such a long time away, this small focus on her was extremely nice to see. It made her feel human, as it comes from a character that we previously knew to be cold and closed off. Her emotion carries the opening with ease, something strong to reel you in and feel for these characters on a more personal level. The other side are people disconnected from Marley, yet are used to reinforce and bolster the emotions of the Marlians as they too can see the pain within them and recognize how they feel. Hanji is quick to take some sort of control over the situation and reiterates to everyone that General Magath sacrificed himself to push them to save everyone. It drives home the point of this isn't just about them anymore. It's not about Marley or Liberio or even Paradise. It's about saving the people you don't know. It's about saving the future. It's about saving the world. It's a subtle but powerful way to open up people's perspectives that tiny bit extra with some emotional vulnerability, to cement it in place before going into utter chaos, before going to war. So when you get into that fighting, you have the clearest picture possible of both sides, with what they are putting on the line and how many people this truly could affect, which when you play with this is an immensely good way to segue into the clarification of killing Eren, and openly stating to everyone there, including Annie, because she has nothing to fight for, that no one wants to kill Eren. 4 whole pages and we have set up the emotion, tone, tone and expectation of this chapter beautifully, with so many conflicting problems bouncing off everyone that are forcefully tunneled into a singular idea that if we kill Eren, if we can stop all of this and save everyone. That's the problem that they face. That's the mindset they have to push themselves into. It's not going to be easy. And when you see the ending of this chapter with how Eren is currently, it makes what they want and potentially have to do even harder. The opportunities, if there is any, are running out rapidly, and decisions have to be made. With our focus on Eren in play, we swiftly shift into his perspective, with a rush of older panels and memories flooding back in to give even more context and weight for Eren's decision making. Seeing some different point of views for the memory panels was actually really nice, especially when you open up to this section with an inner monologue of Eren's decisions, from him questioning himself to confiding in the idea that this is what he wanted from the very beginning, even if it were all decided from the start that he would go down this route. When reading back through it, it almost felt like he wanted to say it wasn't worth it. That everything he's done and the people he's hurt and the things he had to do to get there wasn't what he wanted. In reality, this notation can be backed with how he was pushed to the edge and how he wishes it could have been different. It's like he's trying to convince himself that he wanted to do this from the start and shed that last bit of humanity and care he may have left. Yet there's a small pocket inside of him that wanted things to go differently. You can correlate that back to him crying when seeing people within the camps of Marley, before he decided to go rogue and leave everyone behind because he was pushed to make that decision. For months and even within the chapter, we have seen Eren in some vicious and angry lights. Yet something so small can easily raise that humanity back within him from our own perspective. Even if this wasn't Isayama's intention, the fact that you could mistake his overwhelming anger with sadness and regret is honestly impressive. To have two extremely different mindsets and emotions beautifully weave into one another and overlap, where sometimes you may not even be able to tell the difference unless you look too deep into something that may not even be there. If you had an approach like this, similar to myself, considering this is brought to immediate attention from a handful of choicy words and specific panels, it's a pretty opening thing and leads smoothly into much needed context. Now, I'm not a crazy huge fan of Flock, but seeing Eren and his interaction really shows how infectious Eren's determination and goal truly is. Because when you think about Flock now and how passionate he was about following Eren to the end, this chapter gives clarification on why he's so adamant about it. He got to witness Eren's conceptualization of killing everyone and destroying the world, said with power and unwavering determination. It's undoubtedly an impactful scene and could do a great side job in potentially setting up Flock's return if he indeed fell into the water with a bullet wound and hung onto the plane trailing behind the boat. That's what a lot of people thought happened in the previous chapter, and at this point with something like this to lead into it, I wouldn't be surprised. The remaining of this sequence focuses a lot on Eren and Historia, as well as a conversation Eren has with Zeke, giving more weight to some personal emotions and letting them go. Eren and Historia share some rather personal outlooks on the situation and the future of paradise, with Historia saying she is willing to give up her life to bring some sort of meaningful peace. It's been a long time since we have seen any substance of worth from Historia, not counting her farm baby situation. So to get something personal and even sacrificial to a degree, hell, even emotional to Eren's response, is something well needed. A lot of people really wanted to see her again. And in this context, it's rather fitting but also suspicious, as the headlining concept that ironically is pretty subtle is love, the creation from it and the future. What I mean by this is both Historia and Zeke's conversation that Eren has both overlap and contrast with one another. They both talk about the future and how Eren plans to move forward from here, but the Zeke conversation focuses on Mikasa's love towards Eren, how he potentially knew and let it go, as his time to live and what he was pursuing was running out quickly. Yet oddly enough, he mentions bearing a child, as if to say when he dies at least something pure would remain from him, something not tainted by war or hatred, something beautiful and born out of a desire to have a peaceful future. When you wrap this back up to Historia's conversation, it would make a lot of sense that Eren helped Historia buy time by getting her pregnant, and Historia felt embedded to Eren and helped him bear his child, so something of peace remained from him after everything was done. You can also connect this back to the idea before that Eren has regrets and wish for things to be different. As much as this chapter paints a specific picture of Eren wanting to do this from the beginning, there have been numerous things along his timeline that challenged his future for living after this. When you realize this by seeing his determination and suffering from potentially throwing all of this away, considering he's the only person that can do this, it makes his stakes, his anger, his personal emotions and desires all the more powerful and impactful. But does this mean Eren and Historia had a child? Most likely. Not really out of love, but more so to cement a beautiful future for Eren's bloodline, something he feels his family deserves. Peace and non-hatred filled lifestyle they never got, that he never got. In the context of the quote-unquote final panel we got teased to a while back, it makes for quite the emotional scene. This is how I picture it so far. I don't see Eren living after this. There's definitely a possibility, but for that child to be born alongside the text of "you are free" kind of implies that the Titans, the Shifters, and the Cursed Blood no longer exist. Now for that to be a possibility, only Eren theoretically can recall and reshape the Titans from scratch. Ymir can create Titans out of nothing. Her powers are beyond comprehensible. Eren can surely use the same founding ability to take it all away, making the Titan bloodline no longer exist, and Eren being the sole keeper of all the power and stuck within the Titan realm or Ymir's realm. So, how would he hug the child? I think there could be a lot of symbolism at play. Not only does Norse mythology mention a daughter being born after Ragnarok, that's birth into a new world, quote unquote, Eren's Ragnarok and what he's trying to change, but I'm convinced that child is called Ymir. So that's 3 different points of symbolism and reference. Historia's best friend, named Ymir, in honor of her, the original Ymir being born back into a free world, a world she never had, and Eren's child and his bloodline now being free also. I don't think Eren has to be there physically, but if he can open up a channel through Historia or even his child by using the Founding Titan ability, even if he's stuck in Ymir's realm or the Titan realm, he could still do some astral body type thing. Ymir has somewhat done it. You can send emotions and memories through the paths, so some variation of this could probably work to make it symbolic for us as readers. There's definitely a lot more that goes into that, to flesh it out and have it make more sense, which I may make a video on, but that's the general consensus I've come to over time. The final segment is a fierce and vicious showcase of Eren's power. Not only do we get to see the Wall Titans in action and swimming, which I found rather funny, we also get to see what Eren's Titan looks like, which at this point is hardly a Titan, and more of a spinal / ribcage like bridge. I wish I could show the panel, but I do believe Eren is still connected to Paradise by his body. It looks like it's elevated high above the water and spans across the ocean back to where he came from. If you want to look into it too deeply, you could also connect this back to the same Norse mythology and the bridge that rises out of the water after Ragnarok. It's a land bridge. I mentioned this before and thought it would happen if the Titans walked across the bottom of the ocean, but turns out they're Olympic swimmers. In comes Eren with his spine and rib cage elongated to extreme lengths for really no good reason, other than to potentially connect Paradise to Mali as a bridge for people to walk across. I'll throw out the loose idea that he could maybe use his rib cages that can expand into the ocean floor and raise the land. It sounds weird, but Eren at the moment is beyond pretty much everything with what he actually is and what power he could contain, and it kind of fits with the whole continued Norse mythology references. Away from looking deeply into stuff that may not even be there, the panels we got were absolutely gorgeous. The literal embodiment of anger and revenge. The destruction and Wall Titans moving around was incredibly detailed. Isayama did not hold back with those double spreads. Just seeing Eren is a terrifying sight. His body, his face, everything just screams horror and hatred. I also really love the elfish look Eren's Titan has. It's a lot more recognizable now, and a great added touch. At this point, Ragnarok begins. The destruction of Mali is taking place, and everyone will be making their way towards Eren to potentially battle or even talk to him. We are within the final strides of the manga, with theoretically less than 6 chapters remaining at most. There's quite a decent amount of stuff to cover and explore, but it's definitely doable. I have faith with however Isayama wants to end this story. I still don't personally see the whole world being destroyed and everything going back to normal for Eren, but there's a decent amount of room for deviation appreciation and ideas to come in. I'm also just excited to see how everything concludes and experience the final chapters every single month. To bring this video to a conclusion, this chapter was beautiful, terrifying, the core of anger itself. The following months are going to be a phenomenal time for Attack on Titan fans across the globe, so let's experience this finale together. With that being said, let me know how you felt about the chapter, and if you have any theories or ideas of your own, I'd really love to hear your thoughts. But I want to thank you all for watching, hope you enjoyed, drink plenty of water, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.